Welcome back everybody. Today we are going to work on our registration and login screen. So we're going to be styling that thing up. So without wasting too much time, let's go ahead and just jump into this. So we will need to create a registration screen alongside with our login screen, but first we'll take care of the layout and the styling. And primarily what we want to do is we just want to go ahead and add a layout. There are going to be a couple of things missing from the header that are just going to make our lives a little bit harder if we don't have them. So let's go ahead and refresh the page here, and this is something that really should be included by default, but we want to grab these two headers where the char set and the viewport is set, and let's go ahead and just put this first thing at the top, and let's actually just remove these two here. Okay, once we got that, let's close it. Let's go into the login page, and in here let's go ahead and set our layout. Once we got our layout, what we can do is let's just go ahead, redirect to our application, and what we will do here is we'll start working on the login screen. So let's go ahead, highlight our form or whatever, so we can go to the DOM tree and navigate through here. This is how we're going to basically style in the browser first, and then we'll transfer the styles across. So let's grab the body, and what we're going to do is we're going to say minimum height 100 VH. So viewport height, that is going to stretch out our body full screen essentially. And what we want to do now is, I'll just say, not flex direction, I'll just display flex, justify content, center, align items, center, and now our login screen is essentially centered, right? Let's go ahead, grab this, go back here, go into styles, create a body tag, styles for the body tag. I think this should be style. Let's format this a little bit. We're not barbarians. Now that we got that, let's go ahead and essentially do the same to our form. So display flex. Instead, we want rows. So we are going to be displaying in a column. So flex direction column and align items center. So if we got columns, all the columns are going to be centered in the center, right? Nice, we got that. Let's go ahead, grab that, put that on the form here as well. We'll need to have that because it doesn't format it properly for some reason. So we got that. Next thing, before we style our fields and button, let's go ahead and make it a little bit prettier, put a little bit more information on it. So let's go ahead and add a div where we will also have a label, and on the label we can say username. Let's do the same for our password. I'm just going to copy this username here, this here, just password here. Let me scroll down a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. Looks like I have neglected my locations for the inputs, or rather included the wrong elements in the wrong sections. So anyway, this is what it should look like. Our hidden input field, first section, second section with the inputs, and then the sign in button. And I'll also add a link for registration or register. Once we got that, let's go ahead and tag these up a little bit so it's a little bit easier to work with. So let's just call this field, and we will call this field as well, and this one can be field as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a hard refresh, Control F5. The page may crash at this point because if your application is slow to reload, you are just going to get an exception. Let's go ahead and navigate to the field here. So first thing that I want to take care of is the font here. So the font that we're using on our Nuxt application, we want to essentially line these up. So let's go ahead and inspect the text here and filter for font. We'll see that it's Roboto Sans Serif, not important. Let's go ahead and check if we have it in the browser. We do, so we can go ahead and utilize that throughout our website. So let's go ahead and just put this here. So everything should use this font, and it's not important, okay? So giving this a refresh, all the font should change. Oh, It's not pretty. Right, let's go ahead and take care of styling these. I'm gonna go ahead and opt in for kind of the same layout that we had. So display flex, flex direction column, justify items, and we will flex start. And sorry, justify items will align horizontally only if it's flex direction row. If you want to align horizontally when it's in a column, you need to use align items. So we will do align items flex start, which should be good. So let's grab this and we will add this to our field. Okay. Next thing that we want to work on are maybe the input fields and maybe the warnings. So let's go ahead and edit as HTML. Let's go ahead and say warning here or something like that. Control Enter to finish. So the span itself, let's go ahead and see what kind of font size we want to use. Maybe 10. And I have probably not font size, text size. Oh, never mind. It is font size. It's just 10 pixels is the wrong measurement. So 10 pixels. That's a little bit small. I think going for 13 pixels will be okay. And for our warning color, let's go ahead and go into Viewify, and we'll check a look at we'll take a look at the colors that they're essentially using, so we are more or less in the same boat. So going to styles and animations, let's go into colors. We will scroll all the way down to where they have the color palette, and looking through this, I mean, really, you know, I'm no artist, but let's go ahead and just grab this one and see what happens. And I think that looks okay to me. One thing that I would also say, maybe let's try margin bottom. I think 0.5 rem would be okay. Yeah, so we get a little bit of space in between the elements, and maybe we could get a little bit more space here as well. So margin, again, margin bottom 0.25 rem. This will probably need to be really tiny. Yeah, so I think that's okay. Let's go ahead and transfer this, right? So font size, this will be on the span of the field. So let's go ahead and grab the field. We will put this here as well. However, on the field, we'll just put this on the span. So field and span, that's where that needs to go. So let's go align this a little bit. And let's not forget that we did add the margin bottom here of 25 to the input. So input. Go ahead, put this here. And let's not also forget that we added the margin bottom on the field. Cool. Let's refresh this. This should radically change our register screen, more or less. One thing I'd say are these buttons. I still want them to be side by side. So for that, let's just go ahead and make a little class where we'll say flex row, where we will set the flex direction. Flex direction row. Let's go ahead, add these here. So flex row, and then we'll work on the margin in the browser. So let's go ahead, give this a refresh. It looks okay. Let's try to sign in, and we will get these errors if we are not signed in. Okay, looking good so far. And I think if we just say something like margin, what is this direction? Margin right. 0.5 rem. Let's see how far apart they are. 1 rem. And that looks okay to me. Let's try to put, instead of the margin, let's remove that. And on the top here, what we're gonna do is justify content space between. Looks like that hasn't done anything. space evenly between around. What? And if we scroll through them, should at least move them about. Let's try to get rid of the align items and the center, flex, start. And that's because it is actually aligned on the center there. So it wasn't occupying full space, so that was my bad. Okay, so let's bring this back, and for flex start, let's do, again, space around, space between would be that, and space evenly, I think. That's the winner. So on the form, let's remove align center. On the flex row where we have here, let's do space the buttons evenly. We'll save this, give this a refresh. And for now, I think this could be more or less all right. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of this, maybe a login screen. Let's see how that looks like. So H3, header 3. We got the login. Let's make sure that the font is still what we want. And text align, we want center. So that's fine. Let's go ahead and just say at the top here, maybe after body, H3, text, let's close the tag, text align, center. Right, so a little bit of a ghetto form, but you know, we're getting there. We're getting there. Next thing I think will be the border of the body. So let's go to the color palette. I'll just be picking all my colors from here. And I want a darkish color, not super dark, but yeah, gray darken. So let's go ahead and background color. Let's go ahead and set the, that was a little bit too much. Set the color to this, so actually it will be a little bit faster to develop for here again. Background, we'll set the color. Form, again background. Let's grab maybe not white. Well, you know, let's see what this will look like. Yeah, that's all right. All we have to do now is add some padding, where we can say, I don't know, maybe 5 rem. I guess, nope, maybe one more, 1 rem, 1.5. Looking good. I think the inputs have to be a little bit bigger as well, but let's go ahead and take this login form and, you know, bring it into the 2020 border radius, 5 pixels. Oh, didn't press save on that. Box shadow, 0, 0. So it's gonna elevate up a little bit, so we will need -1 pixel. So I think because it's down and right as the axis goes, as it like from this corner, Y increases down. I can't remember exactly. We'll see in a second. Next one, as I remember, it's a blur or something like that. Let's do pixel 1, pixel here, and we'll just put white on here. Okay, so looks like, yeah, I was actually correct, but I put it in the wrong direction anyway for some reason. So, and colors maybe should be swapped. Let me grab this one. Let's put white here, so that's fine. And for the box shadow, let's put it here. Not much has changed, but I think it's already looking better. So I think it's fine if we keep it here for now. We can do a little bit more styling later on if needed. So this is kind of like on the fly. Let's go ahead and copy this form. We'll put it here. Background color, I think I've already set that. So let's go ahead and refresh this. Yep, that's looking good. Sign in and register. I think I'll keep it at what it is right now. What I want to do is actually want to get to developing the registration form and the registration functionality. So before we move on, let's rename the H3 to title, and we will just make sure that the H3 that we do have, we control it through the title rather than the H3 tag, because if we change it, etc., it's gonna break. So let's grab these styles. What we're going to do is we're going to go in the layout, in the header, after the title. We're just going to put this here, right? And then the login form, let's go ahead and just make sure view data. We say title, login, right? So a little bit of production preparation, nothing wrong with that. Let's go ahead and just insert another page, and we'll call it register. This doc type doesn't need to be here. Let's go ahead and bounce between the login form and the register form. But we'll just copy everything, and on the register form we'll place it and go top down. We will fix everything. So first we got register. We don't have the form specified, so let's go ahead, say register instead of username. We should have email, so let's go ahead and put email and email. We still need to make sure we're keeping track of the return URL. Password will still stay there, but we'll also have confirm password. Let's go ahead, copy this, replace this password. Make sure we use the one single property. And back to login will be here. And sign up. I think that's the preferred notation, right? When you're logging in, you're actually signing in, and when you're registering, you're signing up. I don't know why it is like that. Probably it's confusing me right now as well. So let's just quickly go to the login form and let's copy our view model here. Let's remove that, and let's actually we'll copy the entire body. All right. Let's put this here. And the login form, let's change this to register form. Let's implement missing references. And the register form, let's go ahead and put this here. We'll put this register form here as well. One thing that we'll need to do is copy this password and make sure that we use confirm password. Data type will still be password, but we also want to compare with name of password. So we just say what are we actually comparing with this property. So it will make sure that these two are equal. Okay. So once we got that, let's check this page. Email. Yep. So actually, yeah, let's get an email. I think we'll add a little bit of email verification to this, and I'll still have a think about it, but I think I'll let them pick usernames and emails. So once we got that, let's go ahead and change this up a little bit. What we want is we want to first create a user. So new user, so new identity user. For the username that we're going to specify, let's just say email. And then we're going to need to use the sign-in manager, or rather first we'll need to create the user. So let's go ahead, grab this. We'll paste this here just as a quick access. The sign-in manager, will rename this to user manager. Same as we seed our user, we use the user manager, right? Then we grab the user manager. Let's go ahead and call create async. We'll pass the user. We will await on this, and I think we can create this with a password. I always forget. Create async. What did we did use in program CS? Create async with password. Yeah, that's precisely what we used. So going back to the register CS.html where we have create async, let's also make sure that we supply the password. So form password, and at the end, let's see what this returns. Let's take a look. I think this is identity result. So var create user result. Let's go ahead and wait on this. What kind of result can we get? So create user result. If it's succeeded, let's go ahead and sign the user in, right? So sign in manager, sign in async. And let's just sign the user in because we've just created them with a password. We don't need to supply anything else other than I think is persistent or something like that. So let's take a look. Is persistent authentication method. Let's do true. I think we do true when we log in. Let's double check. Yes, we do. Let's come back and let's await on here and sign in result. I think, is there one? Nope, it's a void. So I guess because we don't have a password, this should just work as long as the create user result succeeds. So after we sign in, that should redirect us, etc. Let's go ahead into our program CS and let's make sure that we are using appropriate emails as well. So the accounts are now test@test.com and mod@test.com. And for the registration screen, that looks like it's working. One thing that I would say is when we do navigate to the register screen, we want to pass our return URL. So let's make sure that we don't forget that. So let's go ahead and say ASP page. So where do we want to, so this turned out to be a disaster. There we go. Boom. Okay. We want to go to account, register, and for the return URL, again, because we have the return URL in here, this is how we would supply it. So return URL equals @model form return URL. And the same thing if we go back to login. So if we go on our register CS.html at the bottom here, we'll say back to login. When we return back to login, we want to pass this URL around. So let's go ahead and say login. I'll format this a little bit, and this looks okay to me. So let's go ahead, start from our application and experience the sign-in process. All right, so let's sign in, username. Let's try to register, and page cannot be found. So account/register. Let's see. What did I mess up on here? And the way that we pass URLs is actually a little bit different. So, okay, so ASP route, and if we want to pass a parameter in the route, let's specify it like this. And this will bind it automatically. So we put this here and we remove it from here. So let's go ahead, copy this. We'll put this on here as well. We'll make sure to change the login. And back to login, we'll put this here. Okay, and this should actually work. So we'll need to return all the way back here. Let's go ahead, sign in again. Let's try to go to register, and here we are. Let's create a user at test.com. I'll use password for password. We can mess this up, and there is a clear problem in our styles. So let's go ahead and make sure that we do fix this. So let's take a look at this and let's make sure that actually the field do not display this unless the input has a fixed width on it. So let's go for width. That's not it. No, doesn't look like it. So let's say width auto. If that doesn't fix it, let's say 100%. Right. So that looks okay to me, like it's gonna get stretched out. Let's go back to layout. I am going to put this here on the field. I'm not gonna save it because otherwise it's gonna start recompiling my application, and I just want to test this. So just do password. There's probably gonna be more iterations of this as well. So as we go through the process, I'm probably gonna be like, okay, so we're going to change the input field a little bit because, you know, I want to play around with the UI a little bit, and, you know, working with CSS sometimes is fun as long as you're not building a CSS framework. So anyway, let's go ahead and check what kind of user we have. So maybe in the networking tab, not check the session. Let's go to the application tab and check the local storage. We do still have the previous users, so we might need to implement some state cleaning there. But let's take a look at this. Look, am I looking at the wrong place? Okay, never mind. I should have the view application. Yeah, there we go. Let's take a look at the store. Let's commit everything. Let's take a look at the user profile and name it user test, right? So we've essentially signed in as a new registered user. We still have our previous users, and now what actually happens is if we do log out, let's go ahead, sign in. We go to register, pay attention that the, what's it called? The return URL is kept throughout. So we can still go with test.test.com. Password, sign in, and there we are, right? So future works are like profile, connecting it with the rest of our functionality, and slowly tweaking the UI here and there. So you can expect a little bit mixed episodes in the future. But other than that, this will be it for this episode. Nice and easy registration screen and login screen and how they interact with each other, and a little bit of styling work. If you did enjoy this episode, leave a like, subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section. I also stream on Wednesdays and Sundays on Twitch/raw coding. Make sure to follow if you're into watching Twitch streams. Also, don't forget to join my Discord server, and I'll see you in the next episode.